All right. Well, welcome this evening to all of you parents logging in and being present for us on our new parent orientation virtual edition. My name is Rob Fellows. I'm the principal here at Anderson High School, and we are excited that you're with us wherever you are right now. Hopefully, you're comfortable and you're ready to kind of engage in what we're going to be sharing with you this evening. Ordinarily, obviously, we'd love to do this in Titus Auditorium, but we're under some unusual circumstances right now. So it's going to be a little bit different. Just kind of giving you guys a feel on who all is probably chiming in right now. We've got primarily a lot of incoming freshman parents, but then we also might have some parents of students who are moving in from other schools in Cincinnati or even out of state. So we'd like to welcome all of you to Anderson High School and to our new parent orientation. We hope that you find this information beneficial, helpful, and if you've got questions at the end of this, please don't hesitate to send us an email, okay? We want to be really responsive to any questions that you have to try to lower any anxiety level, make sure that you guys are clear on what we've got expecting in terms of the school year this year and all of that. So without further ado, I am going to, actually, let me mention one other thing. The last time I saw all of the class of 2024 parents, and the administrators on this call, we were in Titus Auditorium. It was January or February, and we were having our scheduling meeting. And it seems like it was just yesterday, but obviously our world is radically different in just this short period of time. And but we're excited to have you all back and to welcome you to Anderson High School and to welcome your sons and daughters to step foot in Anderson High School, whether in person or in the virtual academy. The information that we're sharing this evening, it's going to be a little bit of mix. We'll have a little bit of information for some of our virtual academy parents, but primarily it's going to be focused on our face-to-face students. And again, we want to be welcoming your questions at the end. So if you've got them, email is going to be the best way to follow up with us. So Mr. Samuels, if you could go to the next slide, we'll start out with some introductions. I'll preface that all the pictures that have been taken in this were taken a couple years ago. This one was right before prom 2 years ago. Otherwise, we'd probably have our masks on and we'd be socially distanced. But anyways, that was down at Paul Brown. We had a great time, and we like to think we still look like that. But anyways, again, my name's Rob Fellows. I'm starting out my 7th year at Anderson High School. I've been the principal going on 4 years, assistant principal before that. I'm going to give the rest of our administrative staff a chance to introduce themselves, starting out with Mr. Kammer. If you want to go ahead and say hi to everyone, introduce yourself, and maybe let them know how long you've been at Anderson and what it is that you primarily oversee.
Hi, folks. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. This is, first time in many, many years. I've been in administration for about 25 years now, and this is the first time that I've ever conducted a meeting with parents this way. So I appreciate everyone's acceptance of what we're trying to do, and I hope that we've got some worthwhile information for you. I am, let's see, I started at Anderson High School in 2003, so I'm getting ready to start my 17th year. I primarily have oversight for the scheduling process, building the master schedule, managing all the student schedules, the whole collection process of requests and so on and so forth. I also oversee grade reporting processes, transcripts, and some of the senior recognitions among some of the things that I do. I'm happy that you're with us at Anderson. I've got to tell you, I came here in 2003 and I found this is absolutely the best school I have ever worked in, and I've worked in quite a few in several different states. So welcome, and we'll pass it on.
Thanks, Mr. Kammer. Mrs. Stanyard, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Emily Stanyard. I am an assistant principal at Anderson, of course. This is going into my 7th year. I am also a community member, a parent. I too am a parent of an incoming freshman. So this is kind of exciting. I'm wearing 2 hats at the moment, as you can only imagine. I primarily oversee the safety, discipline, attendance, and PBIS programs at Anderson High School. One important thing that I want you to kind of keep in mind as we work through this process, as we are going through everything that goes on at Anderson and behind the decisions that we're making. Know that when I'm making decisions, when I'm speaking to you, with you, or to your son or daughter, know that I'm doing this because I'm invested in this community, I'm invested in this school, and I'm doing this because I want to help lay the foundation for what's going to be a great school for your own kids, but as well as our kids coming up, including my own. My husband as well works in the building. He's a teacher and a coach. And so when the Stanyards are all in, I mean to tell you, we are all in. We're a Maddox family. We live here. We've lived here for almost 17 years now. And so we really put our heart and soul into everything that we do here. So welcome to Anderson, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person one day, right? So I guess now it goes to Mr. Fender.
Mr. Fender, but on my screen, he's actually up here, but I'm sure,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
I'm all over the place, and that's for sure. My name's Kyle Fender. I am another assistant principal here at Anderson High School. The areas that I largely oversee are anything related to standardized testing, academic supports, and student and staff parking. Those are the main areas, but I'm always willing and able to answer questions in other avenues as well. So very excited to continue to be a part of this team. And this is truly a special place. And we're excited to have you as part of our Anderson family.
Thank you, Mr. Fender. And if you want to go to the next slide, and as we transition to, I'm going to introduce our counselors, but one thing, I mean, Mrs. Stanyard hit we're kind of all in on this. It's really kind of pretty cool because on this call, all 4 administrators either live in this district or have family in this district. Mrs. Stanyard's kids went up through Maddox and Nagle to Anderson. My kids are currently at Air. We'll go to Nagle and Anderson. Mr. Fender's kid will come through Air and Nagle and Anderson. Mr. Newton's on the call. His kids came up through Sherwood and Nagle and Anderson. And then we've also got Mr. Kammerer, and his family lives in the Summit attendance area. So we got pretty much all our bases covered, and it's definitely something where we all feel like we're all in on this. Introducing our counselors. Again, this picture was taken last year, but we wanted to make sure you got a face to the name. Mrs. Blackhandle's last name's A through D. Mr. DeLatel is E through K. Mr. Williger, L through R, and Mrs. Maxwell is S through Z. And then Mrs. McKinney is our administrative assistant in the counseling office. So when you've got questions around transcripts along the way and that sort of thing, and you get down to that kind of senior year where you're starting to send things out, Mrs. McKinney does a ton of work behind the scenes. But your counselors are your go-to with regards to schedule questions and that kind of thing. And then also any kind of social emotional support. They are an incredible wealth of wisdom. So reach out to them, and they're looking forward to meeting your son or daughter here in the next few days as well. Next slide, please, Adam. We also have an incredible office staff, and we really only get to do the things that we do because of the people and the staff that make it possible. So in the office here, in the main office, which is, if you're not super familiar with campus, it's what you see off of Forest Road, where there's kind of some visitor parking up front, is Mrs. Beltramo. She is, if you're calling me, you're probably going to talk to her during the day because I'm rarely sitting in my office, and she'll answer and be able to address any questions you've got kind of building related. Mrs. McKinney, who I just introduced from the counselor's office. We have Mrs. Burke, who works primarily with Mr. Kammerer in our treasurer's office. So any kind of fee waivers, questions about what's it called, job permits and that kind of thing. She can help out with a lot of that. Parking, all kind of channels through her, easy pay, that kind of stuff. Mrs. Donahue is the face of Anderson High School. When you come into Anderson High School, she's right there to greet you at the attendance office. She'll also be the one that you'd communicate with from an attendance standpoint. And then we have 2 of the best school nurses and health aides. We've got Mrs. Apple and Miss Brandy. They're working in our health office and certainly gearing up for an important year in terms of health and safety and that sort of thing. And then last but certainly not least, Mrs. Sneed, Patty Sneed over there, making sure that Coach Newt and Coach McCormick are doing what they need to do and keeping them organized. So I'll let Newt introduce himself here in a little bit when he starts talking about athletics and stuff like that. But we can go ahead and go to the next slide because this next person I'm going to introduce is awesome, and I'm sure she's not super thrilled to having to be on here, but she's definitely passionate about working for students and teachers at the community here at Anderson High School. And that's our PTO president, Nichelle Trigg. I'm going to turn it over to you, Nichelle, to say whatever you want to, introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself, why you are excited about this year as PTO president.
Well, I just received a text message, Mr. Fellows, from Mrs. Trigg, and she's telling me that her microphone is not working.
Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. She's going to text me everything that she wants me to say, right? No, she's not. She's going to smile and wave, okay? And you got a face to the name, and you need to know that this person is, she's going to be doing some heavy lifting, but she would certainly appreciate your support, and that can come in many different ways. The PTO does a ton here at Anderson High School, everything from helping to organize after prom, to providing some student scholarships for some students in need, to helping out at faculty events and providing some goodies for faculty to just kind of raise their excitement. They do some building projects. They've planted a bunch of trees to kind of beautify the courtyard over the last year, and it's starting to look so pretty. Last summer, they did a whole big, beautiful mural, which is just awesome in our courtyard. That hopefully when you come into the building at some point, if you haven't seen already, you'll see. Anyways, they are really a great vehicle, and I would highly encourage you to join, become a member, and give of your time, your talent, your treasure, however you can to make things happen. I say it all the time, but we truly can only do the things we do because of the parents and how involved you all are. And that's top to bottom for 4 years. And we say the same thing to our students, but we really want to emphasize it to parents on the front end. You only get with you what you leave behind. You only get to take with you what you leave behind. Get involved early on. You're going to hear Coach Newt talk about that here in a little bit. It's so important to be involved in the life of your young person here at Anderson High School. It makes your experience more exciting. It certainly shows your kids that you're invested. Guys, we have a ton of invested parents at Anderson, and that's why we've been able to weather storms over the last 3 years with construction, with delays, with all kinds of things. With COVID, we're going to get through this because we've got a great support base, okay? So there is a QR code there on the screen. If you've got a QR reader, you can just take a picture of that, and it'll take you to the membership link. I'm also going to make this presentation available to you all tomorrow in my parent update. And so if you don't have the QR reader, you can just click on that image, and it'll bring you to the link where you can sign up and join the PTO and support. So Nichelle, thumbs up. Did I do okay? Is there anything else that I missed? Okay. I'm starting to think that maybe your sound can work and you're just not really wanting to talk, but okay. Okay, let's move on to our other special guests. We've got some students here that I'm going to introduce and then give them a chance to say a few words, because obviously the students are the lifeblood of this place. We do all this because of them, and we love them dearly. And so I've got 3 link leaders that are here giving of their time, and they're excited to just share a little bit about Link Crew and give you all a little bit of familiarity into what that is, talk a little bit about maybe their experiences, freshman orientation tomorrow, and then what Link Crew will actually be like during the school year. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Sophie if you want to chat first, and I'll mute myself and you go ahead and get going, girl.
Hi, I'm Sophia Wiseman. I'm a junior this year at Anderson High School, and it is my first year on Link Crew. Link Crew is basically about being there for the freshmen and keeping them going through the year. Like, not only that we're there for them their freshman year, but we're also there for them throughout their whole year of high school. So my freshman year, I was super duper nervous because, like, you're a little kid coming into like a huge school and there's like 18-year-olds with you. But like after Link in my freshman orientation, I felt so much better because when you go to your freshman orientation, you are going to make friendships with the people that are in your advisory, which will be in your Link Crew, and you will also make friendships with your Link leaders. So going to that first day of school, you will already have friendships built and you'll already know people. And if you need help with something, like link leaders are always there if you need help with something. Like if you're lost on your first day of school or you can't get into your locker, just find somebody in a link leader shirt and we will totally help you. Like we will stop anything that we need to help you. So I'm involved in a lot at Anderson. I am on the dance team. I am in Key Club, High Five Tribe, um, and I am also in SALT, which is the student athletic leadership team. Um, so I'm involved in a lot, and it makes high school a lot more fun and easier because you build friendships and bonds with like your coaches, your friends, and your teams. It just makes high school a lot easier because you have the little families with you. Like everybody at Anderson is like a big family, and in your link crew, you will all basically be a family. Like if you ever need anything, like personal, educational, like anything, we're always there, and like never be afraid to ask because like parents too, like don't be afraid like if you need like anything, like if your student is too afraid to ask somebody, which I understand because I was super duper anxious to ask people questions. But if your student needs an answer to something and they don't want to ask, like feel free to reach out to one of their link leaders because we will totally be there to help no matter like what the thing is. And if we don't know the answer, then we will get you the help that you need.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
Saron,
Thank
you want
you.
to talk a little bit about what's going on tomorrow?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Saron. I am a rising junior at Anderson, and I think to add on to what Sophia said, Link Crew is definitely about bringing freshmen and any students into the Anderson family and making sure that they're connected and they feel like they belong. So with freshman orientation, we're going to do activities tomorrow and kind of talk to the students. We're going to get to know them and then make sure that they know us. We'll show them around the school, walk through their schedules with them so that they know where they're going. And then I think another important part is since this is a very different time that we're in right now, we have virtual and obviously in person. And so there is virtual link crew and there's in person. And tomorrow there are going to be 3 sessions. And I'm definitely excited to see the freshmen and get to know them and make sure that they definitely feel like they're part of the AHS family.
Awesome. And I just remember when these kids were just freshmen too. So now they're leading the show. So Catherine, can you unmute yourself and talk a little bit about what Link Crew will be doing throughout the school year, like how they kind of work and operate during the year? Maybe so, maybe not. She's pulling a Miss Trigg. It's all good. Catherine, you smile, okay, and wave. And just everyone pretend that I'm Catherine's voice, because I'll just kind of mention that our advisory meets every week on Wednesday for a little bit longer than we used to do. We've got about a 25-minute advisory time, and that time is built specifically for class meetings and also the opportunity for our link leaders to get into the freshman advisory. It's like a homeroom kind of a thing where there's no academics going on really. It's just a time for them to build relationships and really help to integrate, as the students were saying, the freshmen into the family at Anderson High School. So thank you, students, so much for joining us. You all are more than welcome to stick on as long as you want, but you're also welcome to hit that little red button that'll hang you up and you can go about your business tonight. But we appreciate your time and giving of your points. And thanks so much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for orientation. Okay. See you guys later. All right. Next slide, please, Adam. Okay. So something that we stress about Anderson High School, we have a vision statement that we are and will continue to be a community in which strong academics, good behavior, and success in life are encouraged each day inside and outside of the classroom. We try to live that on a daily basis. We focus on those strong academics. We want your son and daughter to be engaged in the classroom, to be challenging themselves appropriately. We have a really incredible course guide with a slew of courses that are available for students. And we really want students to push themselves, but to do so appropriately and make sure they're not taking on too much based on everything else that they've got going in their lives as young people. We want to promote good behavior, simply put, throughout our building. We want kids to behave appropriately. We want them to be respectful. We want them to live our motto, which I'll talk about here in just a little bit. And ultimately, we want to set our students up for success in life. That's our goal. Whether you're going straight into a career after high school, you're going straight to college, you're going to go to a military academy or straight into the military or a trade school, we want our students to be successful in life. And so it's more than just the academics in the classroom that we're about. So you're going to see bits and pieces of that in a lot of what we do and how we operate as a building. Our motto, be real, be kind, be better. It's pretty simple. We talk about being real with our kids. We expect, obviously, our staff to be real with our students, that our kids are authentic, that they are men and women of integrity, and they walk through the halls and they hold themselves to high moral character as they're walking through as students here at Anderson High School. We talk about kindness and being kind. There's a lot that can be solved when people are kind to each other. We talk about you don't always have to agree with the other. You can have a different opinion. You need to be kind. You need to be respectful, okay, of everybody and inclusive of different viewpoints. And then we talk about being better. We joke about that we want to be better than other schools. We want to be better than, other teams in the ECC. But we really, when we say be better, what we're talking about is we want to be better than we were yesterday or than we were last period. We might have had a bad period. We checked out and we weren't feeling it. We want to be better than that this period. Last year, maybe we had a tough slump in the spring. We want to be better than that this year. So that's kind of our motto, our vision. And right now, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fender to keep us going, talking it through some of the success that we've got here at Anderson High School.
Yeah, so it's a great lead in to this slide because everything that Mr. Fellows is talking about with our vision and our motto, we really do our best to live that out. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pick a couple highlights out of a long list to demonstrate kind of how that pays off for us over the last few school years. So this past spring, during all of the craziness of a pandemic starting, we were able to successfully, our students passed more advanced placement tests than we have ever done as a building. And that's actually our third or fourth year in a row of topping ourselves. So when Mr. Fellows talks about being better, that's what we're doing. We're competing with ourselves and we're pushing ourselves to be the best versions that we can be. And so when you consider all the obstacles that were in the way, that's pretty darn impressive of what our students and teachers were able to accomplish there. Every year we have numerous national merit qualifiers, semifinalists, commended students. We seems like every year we get a few more perfect ACT scores along the way, and that's incredible. And then it's not just about achievement at the top. We also have we're the only school in Hamilton County and one of very few schools in the entire state of Ohio to earn what's called the Department of Education's Momentum Award 4 years in a row. Now, we won't win it for this past year because state testing was canceled, and that's the only thing that's going to stop that streak or our desire to keep that streak going. And why that's so important is because the Momentum Award is reflective of students at every single ability level of where they start the year and where they finish the year and charting that growth. And we are the only school in Hamilton County to do so at the commended level to earn that award 4 years in a row, and very few across the state, less than a dozen, can claim that. And we are one of those schools. I'm very proud to be one of those schools. And additionally, I feel like our science department, we can start penciling in a perennial Thomas Edison Award. They get after it. They do great things, hands-on learning for our kids. In terms of our clubs and activities, we have clubs for just about everything. We want kids to be involved, and we're super excited to have a diverse list of clubs. And if you find one that we don't have, there's an avenue to get one going. So if your student has a passion in an area where there's not an existing club, we can help find a teacher advisor and get a club going to meet on a regular basis. And what we're excited about is we're working with our club advisors right now to find creative ways to still continue our clubs even during the pandemic as we come back, whether that's meeting right after school and being out before the building has to be closed, has to be closed for cleaning every day, or maybe doing some virtual club meetings. We're going to work with our faculty advisors to keep that going. And we've had, for several years in a row now, we've had tens of thousands of volunteer hours accumulated through our clubs. So we're benefiting our community and giving back as well, as we talk about being kind and looking out for those around us. And in terms of the arts, we have state level and even nationally, recognized performing and visual art students every year. We have great productions down in Titus Auditorium. I cannot wait. I've worked in multiple schools in my career. I can honestly say when the Anderson Theater, Orchestra, Choir, Band are performing, I cannot wait to be here and watch them because of the talent that our students and directors bring to the table. We've had students in the past couple of years with selected visual art pieces that have been on display at the Taft Art Museum downtown, along with the likes of global artists to be on display there. So we're very proud of our students. We love celebrating our students. It's my favorite part of my job, and I think everybody else on this call would echo that as well. We have a lot to be proud of, and we know that we can always still get better, and we're working to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Fender. All right, next we have a little bit of athletics. We're going to introduce here Coach Newton, Chris Newton. Say a little bit about yourself, how long you've been at Anderson High School, and what your current role is, and then give everybody a quick update on athletics.
I just got another text from Mr. Newton.
You got to be kidding me.
I am not, but I think he might be, and he mentioned that his microphone might not be working.
You think I'd lose an opportunity to talk to people?
Oh my God.
No way, baby. No way.
Right.
I got my tools out and fixed it here. So thanks for the intro there, Mr. Fellows. Well, as Mr. Fellows said, my name is Chris Newton, and I am a lifelong A-Town resident. So been here forever, it seems like. It's my 28th year in education. This is my 13th year here at Anderson. I spent 6 years as a science teacher and a coach. And in the last 7 year, I'm starting my 7th year as the athletic director. As Mr. Fellows mentioned, I have 4 children that were raised by the Forest Hill School District and thankfully graduated. A couple of them, I'm not sure how, but all graduated from Anderson High School and are all doing very well and very thankful to the teachers and everybody along the way. So Mrs. Stanyard put it absolutely perfect when she talked about being all in here at Anderson High School, and nobody could have said it better than the way she did. And that's the way we live here is we are all in, and we ask people to join us to be all in, because if you're all in, then you're going to have a better experience. And that's what we're going to ask for our kids. To complete out our athletic department, Zach McCormick is our assistant AD, and he is in his 2nd year here. And last year he did an exceptional job. And as Mr. Fellows mentioned, Mrs. Patty Sneed is our administrative assistant, and that's who you'll talk to a lot with. And she's in her 3rd year, and she spends half of her time corralling us and does an absolutely great job. So the big thing that we want to talk about in athletics is to get involved. And as Mr. Fender mentioned, we have so many clubs and so many activities as well. So if athletics isn't your thing, there's still so many things to get involved with. And the more that you get involved here at Anderson High School, the better your experiences are going to be. And all those young ladies that were on before, they'll tell you the same thing. The more you're doing up at school, the better. And athletics can provide, opportunities and experiences and lifelong friendships forever. We have 29 varsity athletic teams, but we like to say we're 29 sports in one team. We're all pulling for each other. We're all going in the same direction. We currently have 10 fall athletic teams going in different sports, and they've worked incredibly hard to get where they are right now, ready to compete. We have our golf teams, boys and girls, are competing right now. and our girls tennis team is competing right now. So the other ones are just chomping at the bit, getting ready to go. And we're still waiting to hear on a couple of things from them. But our coaches are preparing our kids, and our kids have worked so hard to adhere to all the mandates and all the restrictions. And it hasn't stopped them from being prepared and being ready to represent Anderson High School. There's some information out there about our website that's there, and information about our Twitter that we communicate with, and please join those as well. We've already been asked a number of questions in regard to our athletic booster memberships, and I want to explain about that real fast. We have yet to get guidance on the attendance policy from Governor DeWine, and we are very eagerly awaiting that. We believe, from what we understand today, we understand it's going to be Tuesday that we will get our guidance as to how many people are going to be allowed to attend the athletic events in volleyball and soccer and football. So as soon as we get that information, we will put that out. But as of right now, we just don't feel, as an athletic department and as an athletic booster membership, we don't want to put that out saying that your booster membership will get you into games, because we're not 100% sure about that, what that number is going to be. So we'll put that information out as soon as we can. To round it up, talking about our athletic trainers, we have two incredible athletic trainers in April Gutbuyer and Brittany Gebbing, and they work through Mercy Wellington, and they do a tremendous job. They treat, I believe, and I can say this from experience, they treat all the kids at Anderson High School like they're their own children. And having 4 kids that all spent time with them, I can, like I said, speak from experience. They're great about that. So last thing I'll say is it's very easy to work here. We are blessed. And I tell people all the time, I'm the luckiest man in the world to get to do what I get to do every day, because we have great kids here that will do whatever you ask. And we're a very, very close-knit group here at Anderson, and we're just super excited to not only have the incoming freshmen, but also the moms and dads and the brothers and the sisters that are going to be coming new to Anderson High School, and we welcome you to the AHS family. So thanks again for coming on tonight, and we'll see you in person here real soon.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Fender. I think we'll talk a little bit about some nuts and bolts here moving forward. The latter part of this is going to be a little bit more specific in terms of nuts and boltsy kind of thing. So, Kyle, take it away.
Yeah, great. So for our families who have elected the face-to-face option, and then for those of you that have chosen the virtual option, hopefully sometime sooner than later we can return to our normal activities, and this will be pertinent for everybody. As you are bringing your children to school or picking children up from school, our bus service drops and picks up students right at what we call the main entrance, which is right on Forest Road, parallel to Forest Road. And we ask that during drop-off and pickup hours that we leave that just for buses. It seems like every other couple of weeks we'll have somebody that'll sneak in and get trapped in between 2 buses and have to wait it out. So don't try not to be that person, but it's not worth it. But the south lot, which is just to the side of that main entrance, is where we access our parent drop off and pick up. And if you come in the morning, and we ask that you loop around what we call the drop off loop, which is right in front of Titus Auditorium or the main gymnasium, our athletic and performing arts entrance, and you loop around there, and we have 3 actually access points that students can enter the building from there. And we ask that during drop-off and pickup times that only students that are arriving to the building or leaving the building be the ones outside, just to minimize crowds right now during this pandemic. During pickup time at the end of the day, if you're driving in to pick up your son or daughter from school, it'll be the same pattern. However, as it gets backed up, we'll have a staff member out in that lot directing traffic to use the other lots as kind of a circle around, just so that we can get more cars onto our property and not congest Forest Road as much as possible. We've got a pretty good traffic pattern going. It takes about a week of school, it seems, for everyone to kind of get in sync with that. And then once we all kind of get in a rhythm, it goes pretty quickly. And we're able to get the lots cleared out relatively quickly and safely, more importantly. So that's kind of the gist of drop off and pickup. If we do have any upperclassmen parents attending this new parent information session, and you would like to discuss purchasing student parking passes, I'm also the person that you can email and talk to about that.
Thanks, Mr. Fender. Moving on, I'll invite Mr. Kammerer to kind of talk a little bit about a day in the life of an Anderson student from a schedule standpoint, kind of give you an idea of what the Bell schedule looks like.
Well, and this is a good segue from Mr. Fender's instructions about arriving at school, because our school day starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. We want students to be in their classes at 8 o'clock in the morning, which means that they're going to have to arrive there a little bit sooner. Just be aware that our building does open as early as 6:30 in the morning, but buses will typically get students there in plenty of time to be on time for class in the morning. And if you are dropping off, keep in mind, particularly early on in the school year, there may be a bit of a backup, so you might want to get a little bit of an earlier start. We typically run 2 schedules during our week. And one we call our regular schedule, and that one, or our daily bell schedule on this particular slide here. And that one actually is the one we use Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and Fridays. And you can see that there's 3 different orange spaces on there. So a typical student day would be to start in period 1. Obviously, we move to period 2, and then we move to period 3. And then students start moving in slightly different configurations because we get into our lunch periods here. So our lunch periods are 4, 6, and 8. And our student body is split into 3 groups that go to lunch at one of those times. So most freshmen, not all, but most freshmen will end up in lunch 4 or 6. It is based on courses that students take. So consequently, they're grouped a little bit towards grade levels, but not entirely. So you will see that there will be some seniors that will take certain classes and end up in 4th lunch. There'll be a couple of freshmen that will end up in 8th lunch, depending on specific courses that they take. But by and large, you'll find freshmen will have a period 4 lunch. So in a typical freshman's day, they would go to lunch after period 3. Then they would go to their period 5, 6 class. That's each part of those, each number there, 5 and 6, is about half of a class period long. And so that will end up being a full class period. They would then go to their 7, 8 class, and then they're 9, and then they're 10, and we dismiss at 2:40 at the end of our day. The only change to that on Wednesday is that we have an additional advisory period, and this is a chance for students to make acquaintances with another staff member. That staff member will typically be assigned to them for all 4 years, so they get to know that person as a go-to if they need any kind of help or information. We disseminate a lot of information there. Our counselors center a lot of programming around advisory period, and the administration uses that time for class meetings. So there's a lot of information that happens on Wednesdays in advisory, and that pushes our schedule a little bit different time-wise, but all of your times are there. Our bell schedules are posted on our website, so if you ever need to know what those times are, you should be able to look them up there. And I think at this time we'll move to our next slide. And this one is about a student schedule. Our student schedules can at first look a little bit confusing, and that's why we share them here. If you look at the course name column, you will see the name of the course that the students will be assigned to. If you look at the meeting time column, you will see the period at which they are assigned to. This particular student goes to Intro to Film, period 1, then CP Biology, period 2, period 3 is Spanish 1. The homeroom is actually the advisory, and that name will appear as advisory on the student's schedule this year. And that is, if you notice in the meeting time, it says W, that means it is Wednesdays only. This particular student has fourth period lunch. You see a 4L in that column. And you'll notice in the course term, just to the left of it, it says first semester and second semester. A student might have a different lunch period each semester. They are scheduled by semester, and depending on courses that they're taking, they could have a fourth period lunch one semester and a sixth period lunch the other semester. And as you follow out through the rest of the day, you will see that 5-6 class I mentioned, the 7-8 class, the 9, and the 10. This would be a typical school schedule. Students, when they get their initial schedules on the first day of school, they will also see a locker number if they signed up for one, and a combination in the upper right-hand corner. Schedules, incidentally, will be available to everyone to see on Progress Book. Right now, our goal is to have those all available to our student body on Progress Book on August 20th. So August 20th, you should be able to get onto Progress Book to see the schedules. And just a note about that, if you have technical difficulty and cannot cannot access Progress Book for any reason, if you email parenthelp@foresthills.edu, they will be able to find a solution to you so that you can get on. Next slide, please. This year, something new. We have a number of students who have selected to do our virtual academy. Their classes will be held at the normal bell schedule time. Teachers will make arrangements with their students. They're actually scheduled into the same classes that our students who are in school are scheduled into. The difference is that the teacher will be connecting with those students in a virtual model similar to this one, or through a variety of instructional means. There will be regular check-ins, face-to-face meetings in the virtual sense in a Google Hangout. There will be regular face-to-face check-ins with those students during the week. Teachers will set that schedule and let the students know when that is. The students will be expected to do a little bit of work at least every period of our regular school bell day. So they will be logging into Schoology, our learning management system, and they will be checking into their classes that way and making sure they're staying up and on time in their studies. Most of our electives are going to be available. There are a few that are not. I do believe there's going to be some district information regarding Virtual Academy. A little bit more detailed information will be coming in the near future. Next slide. We do know that there are times when there are needs for a schedule change. We do try to instruct during the scheduling process that usually begins in January, late January, early February. We try to reiterate that changes are not guaranteed and not always that easy to make. We prefer to make sure that anything that you wish to change, any time there's a change of mind about a specific course, that you make the counselor aware of that prior to May 1st of the previous school year. That gives us time to make sure that we are staffing all of our classes appropriately, and that we are not overfilling or specific classes, or that we will not be able to offer specific classes because they are undersubscribed. So we try very, very hard to lock schedules in prior to this school year getting out for the previous year. We schedule over the summer. Sometimes we make mistakes. And these are the examples of times when there may actually be a reason to change a schedule. We will never once let a student flounder in a class that they are misplaced in. We will work through the teacher. We will find resources. We will try to assist in every way Our counselors have lots of resources for parents if a student is struggling, but we will not hold a student accountable in a class if he is misplaced in a specific class. So there are reasons when we do make schedule changes, but please know that we cannot always accommodate every schedule change. We did not mention Betty Feller at the beginning. I want to mention Betty Feller because she works out of our Learning Commons. She is a great person to know if you are having technology issues, or specifically if you need to get rent one of our devices, or you need a loaner for a day because your son or daughter's computer may be on the fritz or getting repaired or something. All of those are handled through our Learning Commons. Mrs. Kemper is in charge of our Learning Commons, and her assistant is Mrs. Feller. We do have devices for rent. There is a price associated with those per semester, and those devices are registered to the student by semester as needed. But keep in mind that if a student has his or her own device and for some reason there's a short period of time that it will be out of service, they can go to the Learning Commons to get a loaner computer for a short space of time. Thank you
All right,
very
Mr. Stanyard. Thanks, Mr. Cameron.
All right. So bear with me. There are going to be a handful of things I'm going to discuss. And certainly, you know, I'm going to try and go through this as quickly and efficiently as possible. But I also want to be mindful of our time so that we can all, you know, get on with our evening. So if I go too fast, if there's something you feel like you need more information on, please feel free to reach out to me. You can either email me or call me at school. I'm happy to discuss further any of the information that we cover this evening. So naturally, of course, if you are sending your child in person, you should know by now that masks are required by all students and staff anytime that they are in the building. Okay, so classrooms, hallways, passing periods, all that kind of stuff. We will be, to the best of our ability, making sure that we are 3 to 6 feet socially distanced from our students and like staff to student, student to student as well. In addition to that, those locations, not only in the classroom, we will have markers in the hallway. We will now have directional hallways. So during passing periods, for example, if you have students if you went to Anderson yourself, or you have had another family member who's gone through Anderson, you know, basically our building's a big block, right? It's a big block A. We will have in our academic wing, we'll have one-way hallways, and those will all be marked. We'll have limited capacity in the restrooms. We'll have markers for students to stand in the hallway when they're entering the cafeteria. There'll be a different setup. So it will be a different feel, but certainly it is our best effort to keep your child as safe as possible at school. Okay, so, but again, if you have questions, certainly reach out and let me know. Mr. Fender covered quite a bit, as did Mr. Cameron, about pickup and drop off locations. At all of our locations where you can enter the building, we're going to have hand sanitizer available, as well as throughout different areas in the building. The building does open as early as 6:30. So if you have a child that needs to make arrangements to meet with the teacher, or you got to get to work and you're like, hey, we're going to just drop you off because you could use the time to catch up on your studies, we will have the cafeteria open for your child to sit. They could get breakfast, they could bring their own breakfast, whatever it might be. One thing that will be learning curve for all of us, even as adults, is that because we're all creatures of habit, we all like to do what we like to do. We are going to have limited capacity in the cafeteria. So some students will eat lunch or breakfast in the cafeteria. And then during lunch, another portion of the students will eat lunch in the gymnasium, in our large gym. And those spaces will be distanced out. And an even greater learning curve for many of our upperclassmen will be that you cannot move seats and you cannot move tables. Okay, so we will cover all these things with your kids when they come into the building, when we're having class meetings virtually, when we're sending information out. So this should be, you know, something that we will discuss throughout the year. Okay, lockers. If you've got Mr. Fellow's update, you should have a request for lockers. So it's not mandatory. Students can carry backpacks, little cinch sacks, whatever it is that your child prefers, but those are permitted. So lockers are not mandatory, but if you feel like your child needs one, then certainly please fill out that request. You'll get more information from transportation. However, know that the basic things that'll be happening with transportation, if your child does take the bus to or from school, hand sanitizer will be available as they enter the bus. Mask will be required. They will when they enter the bus, they will load from the back to the front. And as they exit, they will go from the front to the back to get off the bus. Okay, so it's very important that, we try and help all of us stay as safe as possible. This is going to be a new learning curve for all of us. So patience and understanding is going to be paramount during this whole transition coming back to school. One thing that will be new for many of us is that we are not at this time permitted to have visitors in the building. So including PTO, like there will be certain things that we will not be able to do. Like if, grandma and grandpa come into town, they're like, hey, I want to see Johnny during lunch. These are things that we can't do. As much as we'd love to have more people with us, more people involved in this growth process for your child, unfortunately, at this time, it is not permitted. As that changes, certainly we will keep you up to date. So maybe what does that look like for your kids in the classroom? Teachers will have the opportunity to remotely have guest speakers or college representatives come in with the counselors and so forth. So we are working to make that available. It just can't be in person at this time. Next slide, please. So I did mention earlier that I oversee attendance. The most important thing you need to know is that if your child's not going to be present at school, it's important that you call Mrs. Donahue in the morning. Extension 2900 goes straight to her phone. Now, we do get a lot of calls in the morning, so what you need to understand is that for the morning, it will go to voicemail. Trust me when I tell you, Mrs. Donahue is on top of it, right? She is on top. There's no doubt in my mind. She knows, and like, for example, to tell you how on top of it is, like she starts to recognize phone numbers. And so, Mr. Fellows decided that he wanted to skip school one day, and Mr. Fender thought, oh, well, I'm skipping too. My mom called me in, but hey, I'm going to call in for Mr. Fellows. Mrs. Donahue she'll get your voicemail. She'll see the phone number, and if it doesn't align, buddy, you better believe she's calling, and she's calling you out, and Super Sleuth is on it. And guess what? Mr. Fellows is going to end up in Mrs. Stanyard's office because that's not what we do. Okay, so anyway, there'll be more things about requesting an absence, but then certainly, as that happens, if you have questions, reach out to Mrs. Donahue. Please reach out to me. Next slide, please. All right. We talk a lot about what it means to represent the A. To be part of Anderson High School, we want to show our pride community-wide. As you heard earlier, our motto is to be real, be kind, be better. So we always want to own our actions, own our mistakes, own our successes, and be proud of those things, and know that not just the kids, but the adults as well. This is what we're trying to live by as well. We want to be better than we were yesterday. We want to own our mistakes. We are not fault-free, but we need to learn this together, and we need to support one another. We want to, we often say for athletics, we want to make sure that we're cheering for our school, not cheering against the other school, right? So we want to make sure that we are representing ourselves in the best way possible. And I often will say to kids, you know what, when you made this choice, is this what your family would be proud of, right? We have to remember that this isn't just about the student, but this is how are you representing yourself in the community. When you have your Anderson High School t-shirt on, the number of calls we get, not just like, oh, this kid did something terrible. We get calls from other counties where someone's like, I'm at the Skyline in Milford, and oh my gosh, there were these kids that had on Anderson shirts, and somebody made a huge mess, and they went over there and helped clean it up. These are things we love to hear. So in that regard, we even do not just, kids will be held accountable for poor choices. However, we also like to recognize our kids for making the right choices. And so we do positive referrals. And so the administrators, like a teacher can submit, any staff member in the building can submit a positive referral on your child. And one of the four of us, depending on grade level, will meet with your child, and then we will get that sent home to you, because we want to celebrate the good things that they're doing, growing as a young person in this building. There is no longer, just to try to be mindful of time here, I'm like, 6 minutes. Okay, so community service. Community service, many moons ago, was a requirement for graduation. That is not the case. We will, to the best of our ability, with what we're permitted to do, try to provide opportunities for your child to get involved with some community service. our thought behind that, because again, we want to be real, we want to be kind, we want to be better, we want to be able to give back to our own community or surrounding communities. So this is a way for us to kind of help them get their toe in the water and maybe find that passion, something that they love to do. And another idea, that another way that we are always trying to recognize kids as they're making growth, right? We know that straight A's isn't for everyone, right? That isn't, we want to be the best version of ourselves. And we know that sometimes that isn't straight A's. Straight A's does not define the person sum total, right? That's a letter on your report card. We know, however, that some kids make those improvements, whether it could be going from a D to a C. It could be that, you know, you had an F on your last test and now you bumped it up to a D. I mean, that's great. That means you're making improvements. We do have an organization at school called the Anderson Achievers. And what they do is they love to celebrate our successes. And at the end of the year, fingers crossed, if we're able to have it, we'll get to have our Anderson Achievers rally where everyone, the adults dress up as fools and we celebrate everyone's success. And it's like, it's a pep rally for academics, right? It's like the most amazing thing ever. And one thing that we like to celebrate with that is to get your initial Achievers card. We ideally would love our kids to have a 3.0 GPA for the first quarter. However, we know that's not going to happen with everyone. So one thing that we do to celebrate those successes to being better in the building is that what we'll say is, okay, so maybe the best version of myself, my first quarter was a 2.0 or a 1.5, whatever it was. But second quarter, I bumped it up a half a GPA point. Like, so I went from a 2.0 to 2.5 or 1.5 to 2. I am an Anderson Achiever. I have become a better version of myself. So I too will be recognized for making those improvements. So it isn't just about saying I got straight A's. It's about being a better version of yourself. So again, we're here to celebrate and support your kids. I was talking really fast, but reach out if you need anything. And that was my last slide. Mr. Fellows, I think it goes to you.
Great stuff. And nobody does it better from a positive behavior standpoint than that person right there. Mrs. Stanyard is truly about trying to create a culture where all students feel included, that there's opportunities to celebrate everybody. And even students who make poor choices in our building, they sit down with Mrs. Stanyard. She's real with them and they work through that. And it's pretty incredible to see. So thank you, Mrs. Stanyard. Last thing here, we got a couple minutes left. Just real big on communication. And I really want to make sure that you all feel like we are being as responsive as possible. Certainly we want to be proactive in communication, but when you've got questions and things, we want to be as responsive as we possibly can. So keep in mind, it's often the case that email is the easiest sometimes way to reach out to individuals here at the school, whether it's administrators, counselors, or teachers. Certainly phone works for us in the office. We have phone lines, individual phone lines. Teachers do not have phones in their classrooms. So they certainly can call you, but you wouldn't be able to call them directly. And during the middle of the day, they're teaching anyway. So they probably wouldn't be picking up the phone. But we do want to promote any kind of, if you want to sit down and talk about your son or daughter and a concern that's going on in a class or anything like that, we can set up appointments. We can talk by phone. We can do what we need to. This year, obviously, as Mrs. Stanyard mentioned, we're not going to have visitors in the building, so we'll do some virtual conferences by appointment, which is easy to schedule, and we can ideally work around your schedule and make it such that it's as least intrusive as possible on your busy work schedule. I try to put out every week on Fridays a parent update. Started doing it a little bit earlier this year just because of some of the information that's time sensitive in our current state of affairs right now. But typically I don't get to that until Friday afternoon or even early Friday evening. And I fully acknowledge that many of you will probably not be reading all of that on a Friday night, but I got to get it out on Friday so you got the weekend to look at it. But it does have a lot of information in there that's not intended to be overwhelming. I try to keep it organized. The first part is typically kind of a narrative thing. If I have a PS or anything like that at the top, it's something that's time sensitive or maybe something that we celebrate. I give you a little bit of an indication on a calendar of upcoming events. And under normal circumstances, if I were to put everything in there, athletic, performing arts, all that stuff, I wouldn't have any space to put anything else because there's loads of things going on. So normally I only include things that are pertinent to the academic side of things, parent teacher conferences coming up, open house, senior parent night, those kinds of things, board meetings and all of that. So that's kind of the setup for that. Just a quick side note, I did last week include a link in my update below the video piece to a document that has a little bit more information on some details around some COVID-related safety protocols that we've got in the building. So Mrs. Stanyard hit on a lot, but there's more than that, obviously. And there'll probably be even more information still coming yet in the near future prior to the start of school. We are active on Twitter. We try to promote the things that are going well with our students. That's the whole point of it. So we try to be really celebratory, everything from academics to arts and athletics and visual arts and everything. I'll have our Twitter handles up here in a little bit. Our website is obviously a kind of a central repository for some standard information. And then the next thing, and Mr. Samuels, if you could go to the next slide, there's a Remind account. And I would encourage you right now to take a picture of this slide and share it with your son or daughter. That Remind account, if you have them, go ahead and text that at 26H2DG to the number 81010. That will register them for the freshman, the class of 2024 Remind account. And I use those Remind accounts often. You're welcome to sign up for them too. Just keep in mind, it's not going to be a means of communication with parents. It's something that I do where I need to shoot a quick reminder out. Hey, freshmen, remember tomorrow is the pre-ACT. Get a good night's rest, get a good breakfast in the morning. See you tomorrow. Something like that. It's not every day that I'm doing it. It's not every week, but it's a really easy way for me to stay in touch with students, encourage them along the way, and give them some important reminders. So please make sure that you get your son or daughter to go ahead and register for that as soon as this evening, because I'll start putting some reminds out really in the next few days, probably. And like I said, you're welcome to sign up for that as well. Next slide, please, Mr. Samuels. Our Twitter accounts are there. You can take a picture of that as well. We're pretty active on Twitter. We like showing pictures of things that are going on, celebrating our kids. That's the whole point of this. And again, you don't need to feel like you need to write all this stuff down. I'm going to flip it out to you tomorrow in my update. And then the next slide is our last slide. And that is just a huge thank you for hanging in there for an hour with us virtually. We really appreciate it. Like we said, we would have loved to do this face-to-face, but under the circumstances, we're going to do what we can. I think the theme of this year for us, in addition to continuing to be all in, continuing to be the Anderson family that we are, to be real, be kind, and be better, we're going to persevere through this. We're going to attack the obstacles, the challenges that are in front of us, and we're going to rise above. That is our commitment to you as parents. That's going to be our commitment to our students. It is definitely going to be an unusual start to the year, but we want to try to model for our kids. We're going to overcome. We're going to take the challenges. We're going to listen to the feedback from students, from parents, and we're going to roll forward. So soon enough, we'll be back to that kind of a picture where we can celebrate at NKU. Your son or daughter walking across the stage at commencement. That's why we do what we do, to set them up for the next phase of their life. So thank you all very much. And on behalf of the folks that joined us this evening, the faculty and staff at Anderson High School, thank you so much for the time. And we look forward to a great year. Have an awesome evening.